So my 34 female sister, 29 female, got married about 4 years ago and has been no contact with our family ever since. Now, I want to make this perfectly clear. Most of us she went no contact with knew nothing about the situation till she made her wedding speech disowning us. Our dad, 61 male, paid for all our weddings and $10K to help start us off in life. He was an amazing single father. Mom died when we were young, who took pride in his 5 kids. About a few weeks before the wedding, he asked my sister which song they'd be dancing to for the father-daughter dance. She told him that she wouldn't be taking part in any silly sexist traditions, and my father told her he wouldn't be paying for anything else, since she was such a strong, independent woman. They ended falling out, and she banned him from the wedding. To add insult to injury, she had her maid of honor walk her down the aisle. Other crap went down at the wedding. A few weeks ago, my sister randomly messaged me. It started off light, like asking me about my kids, her showing me pictures of her children. Then, 3 days ago, she gave me the real reason as to why she contacted me. She wants her $10K because they're going to lose their house, and she wanted me as the oldest to talk to Dad. I did try, but he just pointed to his rose bush and said that was her memorial because she's dead to him, and don't bring it up again. I told her this, but she wanted me to try harder. Then I told her it's not my place to tell our father what to do with his money, and she has to face the consequences of her actions. She blew up at me, telling me her kids are going to be homeless, and then asked me to help her. Our other siblings blocked her the second she messaged them. I then asked would she even be speaking to me if she didn't want money. She then started begging, but I've left her on red since. And for anyone wondering why I didn't know till the wedding, I lost my oldest child to SIDS, so that whole year I was a mess. Not the a-hole. She's lucky that's all you said, especially as she is literally only calling for money. Shame on her. And yeah, any more detail would be great. She said the wedding was child-free, but the groom side was allowed to bring kids. She announced she wanted a dance with her sisters, then only called her friends' names, leaving me and our other sister looking like idiots. She held it in a place where it was difficult for our sister and grandparents, all in wheelchairs, to get to the bathroom. Even told Grandma, who is our mom's mother, to suck it up, it's not her day. Was downright rude or just ignored all of us. Literally, I never saw one person from our side get a picture with her. Called our dad cruel names and made him out as a bad father. Told our brother he wasn't allowed to dance with his then boyfriend, extremely loud, as in everyone stopped and looked. Let her friend announce her pregnancy and reveal it was a boy by a cupcake, which wasn't so bad till she said she'd finally get a nephew. My baby was a boy. And that's all I can remember off the top of my head. Like, I don't know why she did it. The groom and his side were really nice people. Not the a-hole. Your sister made her choice in life and disowned her entire family and has been no contact for 4 years. By disowning your dad, she forfeited the $10K gift. If she didn't come up on hard times, you would have not heard anything from her. You should do what your other siblings did and block her. If she truly wants help from your dad, she needs to pull up her big girl panties and talk to your dad herself. She can't try to use her kids that you've never met to garner sympathy and help from you. Not the a-hole. Your sister was massively entitled with her attitude. She could have the wedding she wanted, but then don't expect someone else to pay for it. And cutting contact with everyone over this showed how little she cared about her family. Now she comes asking for money with not even an apology for her actions. Info. Why did she disown you all as siblings? She said we are just sheep that follows our master, our dad, and we're all just like him. I can't remember word for word, but she basically called us low class. That where all of us go, bad things happen, as in Mom dying, my sister being disabled from a car crash, and I losing my son. I'm a sophomore in college, and I'm living in a 1-bedroom apartment rather than the dorms. I was living in the dorms during the fall semester of this year, but moved off campus for the spring semester. My mom and dad are compulsive shoppers and hoarders. At their house, they'd have so much stuff piled around that there were just paths to walk through rooms. A lot of stuff, expensive stuff, went unopened. When I lived at home, they treated my bedroom like some of their hoarding space. Every time I'd clear space, they'd drop off gifts that I didn't even want. When I moved into my apartment, I wanted to take very little, just what I'd had in the dorm, plus a few things from home. But I needed my parents' help moving. I packed up my stuff into the truck they rented and said this was all I wanted. But the next morning of the move, I noticed they'd put twice as much into the truck. Stuff I hadn't wanted to bring. I was angry and I said that I didn't want all that, to take it out. But my parents steamrolled me, saying there's no time to unpack, you'll need it all for college. This is the stuff you need to make a home. You need an equipped kitchen. You didn't bring nearly enough to wear, etc. I was fed up with it and really just wanted to get to college, so I said okay, let's go. We arrived. My parents and I unloaded everything. They'd be taking a train home and they conveniently couldn't take anything back with them. Once they left, I knew I wanted rid of most of it. I like really minimalist living space. So I went through everything, sorting out what I'd meant to bring versus what was snuck in. I filled a hallway with stuff, mostly new in boxes or new with tags, and started listing it on Facebook Marketplace. Designer clothes and bags, kitchen supplies and gadgets, home goods, flat-pack furniture kits, high-end cosmetics and toiletries, shoes, etc. I've made almost $3,000 in about 3 weeks, and I've only sold like half of the stuff I've listed. I've also let my friends take stuff they want, and I plan on donating anything I don't sell or give away in the next few weeks. But the issue. My parents don't have Facebook, but my aunt does, and she told my mom about the sale listings. My mom blew up on me, saying that stuff wasn't mine to give away. I said that they'd said the stuff was mine. I also said that I was selling them because I was really scared of debt after college. What if I can't pay my student loans back? So I was trying to make money to put towards college now. That is partially true, even though it's not the whole reason. But it did calm my parents down. Am I the a-hole for selling so much without asking? I felt like the ownership thing is kind of murky. They've always used gifts as a euphemism for crap of ours that we want to store in your space and take back when we want, and we all know it. But I'm sick of being the storage unit. Not the a-hole. It seems this was an ongoing issue in which you knew they wouldn't take a single thing back. If they're gifts, they now belong to you, and you can do with them what you please. Some unsolicited advice. Don't take anything from them from now on, whether you will use it or not. Sometimes a zero-tolerance policy is the only way. Not the a-hole, but your aunt is. Has your aunt been to your parents' house recently? She should try to help, not hinder. Sell away and put everything toward paying back your loans. Maybe your parents will stop giving you stuff if they know you're getting rid of it, but maybe they won't. Not the a-hole. You said you didn't want it. They said you need it and forced you to keep it. In my eyes, that means it's yours to do what you want with. Not the a-hole. My parents were similar, not as bad, but still pack rats. And I think your age and situation is the perfect time to really undo those habits for yourself and strike out on your own, in terms of minimalism. I always said I would, but never quite did. I'm not as bad as they were, but closer than I'd like. Though I wish your aunt hadn't quoted you. I think this is the perfect opportunity for your parents to realize that they can no longer use you as storage. Tell them gently, but resolutely, that if they give you extra stuff again, you will again do with it as you see fit. And perhaps offer to do the same for them at their house on your next few school breaks. They will probably be horrified at the idea, but there's a chance they'd actually take you up on it. And either way, it will hammer home the fact that you're serious about this. And if I were you, I'd create a second dummy Facebook account to sell in the future, so your family doesn't get wind again. Diabetes is rampant in my dad's family, and he even has it, but his is very, very mild. He can go days without medication as long as he keeps a good diet. He's fit and has never been in the hospital for diabetes. Same with his older brother. But his younger brother who has diabetes is very sick, needs dialysis, and in need of a kidney transplant. But he did it to himself, and I don't feel bad. He purposely eats unhealthy, abuses his medication, and does things everyone knows diabetics shouldn't do. Recently, him and his wife came to Canada from Nigeria as asylum seekers or refugees because they lied to the government and said they're both gay and are pretending to be married, so they need to leave Nigeria. His wife is 30 and he is 47. They decided to do IVF and have kids because he cannot. The IVF ended up producing twins. Mind you, neither of them have jobs, a car, a house, citizenship, anything. And they, in the most willing way, brought children into the world. She is basically his caregiver, and they have zero trace of a romantic relationship. He does acknowledge the babies and only did the IVF so he could have kids before he dies. He can't sit down, stand up, or do anything without help, and he really thought this point in his life was the best time to have kids. Anyways, after staying with my dad's sister in America for 6 months, they came to Canada in January and have been staying with us ever since, rent-free. I never liked either of them since the moment they arrived, because I knew the type of freeloader situation it was going to be. Luckily, we have a basement suite with bedrooms, kitchen, and bathroom, so we never have to see them. But they never fail to remind us they're still here. The wife cooks constantly, for him. She cooks unhealthy, huge portions, knowing he has diabetes, and the smell of their food is disgusting. It's to the point where nothing can mask the smell. She also puts diapers in the recycling and broke our hairdryer. My dad plans to build a new house soon, and he's been forced to scrap the blueprint and make one that will accommodate them and their twins in our new home. And they've recently decided that his wife will be the one to give him a kidney. I know for a fact they will try to pawn off their twins to us to babysit while she's in recovery. My mom and dad are both fed up with them living with us, but they can't do anything because it's taboo to kick out family in Nigerian culture. I expressed my frustrations about their presence with my sisters, and they said I'm selfish and lack empathy for their situation. So, am I the a-hole for wanting them to leave? Not the a-hole for wanting them to leave, but you would be the a-hole if you tried to force your parents' hands. It's never fun living with other people. I get that you don't like the choices they've made and continue to make, but for the most part, it's not really any of your business. You could talk to your parents about how you feel, and you could plan ways to be out of the house when the twins need looking after. Their care is not your responsibility. Ultimately, though, this is on your parents and who they're willing to have live with them. I'm not sure how old you are. If you're a minor, it's obviously still your parents' responsibility to make sure you're well cared for. Beyond that, it's really your parents' call as to whether they leave or not and how they handle it. They do sound awful to live with, though, so you really have my sympathy. I hope your dad sticks to the original blueprint and lets them know that's when the deadline for them finding their own place is. My 35 female, husband, 35 male, and I have 2 kids, 5 female and 9-month male. We recently decided that we should do an official will of who would get custody. God forbid something happens to both of us. Now, my parents, 60 female and 62 male, and my in-laws, 62 male and 62 female, all know that if something were to happen to us, that they would go to my brother and his husband, both 37. My brother and brother-in-law were of course happy that they were chosen to take them if anything were to happen. My younger brother, 27, was totally fine with not being chosen, since he doesn't really care for kids, but is slowly starting to play with our 5-year-old. Our backup would be our best friends, 37 male and 30 female, who have 2 kids, 4 male and 1 female. We all live in the same city, so it makes sense to keep the kids as close to family as possible. My sister-in-law, 29 female, and her husband, 30 male, have no plans on having kids, even though he wants them. I've never gotten along with my sister-in-law in the last 7 years I've known her. My husband doesn't even like and get along with her. They also live on the other side of the country. They still lived in town when I had our oldest, but she only saw her maybe 5 times total when she lived here. She never texts or calls, or even asks about her niece and nephew. Well, she found out what our plans were for our kids. She called my husband and I screaming that we were a-holes for not even considering her and her husband as possible guardians for the kids, and that we were massive a-holes for picking friends over them. She then proceeded to call me every name in the book, and said I'm forcing my husband to pick my brother and brother-in-law over her. I told her she needed to calm down if she wanted to actually have this conversation. She calmed down enough where she stopped screaming, and I told her my brother and brother-in-law have been there since day one, and that they actually have a relationship with them. Unlike her, where she's only ever seen her niece 5 times, and has not even met her nephew. She started to scream again, saying I'm the a-hole, and that I'm punishing her for living on the other side of the country. That's when I snapped, and said there would be no way on this earth she'd ever get custody of them. She then proceeded to call and yell at my in-laws, where they told her she's way out of line for demanding to be the guardian of our kids, and that it was our choice, not hers. She's been blowing up our phone, saying we're a-holes for not trusting her, and not even picking her for a backup. My husband said we could just tell her she's the backup to make her happy, but I don't think we should, just in case the backup has to be used. Are we a-holes for picking friends as a backup instead of her? Not the a-hole. However, you may want to see your lawyer about letting them hear any voicemails and read messages from your sister-in-law, and let them know that under no circumstances ever should the worst happen to you and your husband, she ever has access to your children, and how she'll try to make life hell for your brother and brother-in-law. This woman is seriously unhinged and is a danger to your kids. Not the a-hole. She is not even trying to have kids of her own. Why is she hell-bent on the possibility of maybe someday getting custody of yours? Her behavior in response really makes it clear why you don't like her and don't want her to get your kids. She believes that blood should stay with blood, so by having friends as a backup is just unacceptable. I told her if that's her logic, my little brother would get them before her, and my husband has some cousins with kids the same age, and they'd go to their cousins before her. That just pissed her off even more.